Hello traders and welcome to Watchlist Wednesday for Wednesday, September 15th, 2021. I'm your host, Stephen Place with Precision Volume Alerts. And I'm actually recording this the night before so I can get this out as soon as possible. But today we're going to talk about solar stocks. I think we are starting to see momentum come back into this sector. It's been dead money for months. It hasn't been a very good trading vehicle for the overall sector, but we're starting to see pockets of strength and some individual names in a competing industry that are really starting to move. So let's go ahead and hop over to our charts, and we'll look at TAN here in a second. But the reason I chose solar for our watch list Wednesday this week is because First Solar is running. So FSLR had a very nice move on Monday. So it ran from $100 all the way to 106. It's coming into some resistance from the last time we had a very strong move in solar at the beginning of this year. So I wouldn't be surprised if we saw some chop. But normally when you see, we'll call these energy names, right? Because when you see, for example, oil stocks, Exxon and Chevron and Rig and so on, they tend to move in lockstep with one another because they're tied to commodities, all right? And we can view these as energy stocks now. They're basically like an alternative to coal stocks. And what's interesting here is First Solar is running, but the rest of the sector isn't, yet those names are really starting to set up. So we got First Solar in play. Let's consider some other energy sectors right now. And I just want to point out natural gas futures, which have gone parabolic. We've seen this massive move starting in the beginning of September from about 380 all the way up to 5.25. Very strong moves. Natural gas does have a tendency to go parabolic, so that's not unusual. But we also have, we could look at something, and I'm only looking at this because I looked it up and it's close enough. So you have Chinese coal futures as an example. Also seeing a really nice run. I'm not sure about how liquid these names are or how liquid this futures market is, but I think it's illustrative for why we want to look at this. So the sector that is adjacent to solar is going to be coal, because coal and solar are very competitive with one another. And so how are coal names doing right now? Well, you can look at Arch, right? Continuation, nice, strong rallies, right? From this base above 60, running to $84 a share. Very strong moves there. You could also look at BTU, Peabody. Peabody's gone parabolic. It was trading at $5 at the beginning of the year. It's currently trading at $18 a share right now. This also includes some natural gas exposure as well. So what do we have right now? We have coal stocks running, natural gas stocks running. At some point, if coal becomes too expensive and natural gas becomes too expensive, we have to consider replacements economically. And that is where the narrative will get fixed if these names continue to stay strong. And that's why I'm very focused on solar stocks headed into the end of the year. So let's talk about a couple different ways to play it. You've got TAN, T-A-N, and this is the solar ETF. And as you can tell, it's been dead money. Right, this was a really nice runner at the end of last year, at the beginning of 2021 as well. This was directly related to the stimulus bill post-election and the anticipation that solar would get a lot more love from the federal government. So that caused this market to rally all the way up to 125, and the whole momentum thing just broke, right? And then it traded back down to $70 a share. Since then, we have this trend line right here. And if you wanted to, you could throw on this trend line as well. So it's consolidating, and we are seeing lower highs and higher lows. If you wanted, you could look at maybe this trend line right here and call it a falling wedge pattern or something along those lines. Either way, the longer a base builds out and the longer a consolidation is, the more potential it has for very strong moves. All right, so what happens if it clears, right? We've got clear resistance at 93. If it clears 93, there's probably going to be some trapped sellers and bag holders up in the hundreds, but they'll probably clear out pretty quick, and we might get some nice movement in there. You can also look at ICLN, and this one also has just been consolidating. It hasn't been doing anything. We could call this some kind of a symmetrical triangle pattern saying, hey, you know what? We're getting pretty close to this apex. It could break down or it could break out, but we need to watch the price action as we come into this. I also want to point out the volume that has been built up just around this level. I'm going to see if I can point to it right there. All right, so there has been a lot of churn and a lot of sideways action. And what this means is if we do get a breakout in ICLN, there are going to be a lot of strong holders from very good prices that don't have much incentive to sell. Okay. Again, we'll probably have bag holders as we get into the high 20s, taking profits or at least getting back to break even and things like that. But overall, this is a very solid looking chart with some nice continuation potential. Then you also have PBW, and this one's an old school ETF as well. This is traded, go all the way back to 2007. So I traded this in 2007. That's why I know this one. And ICLN and PBW both have other clean energy in the mix, wind and wind. I can't think of any other clean energy off the top of my head, but or hydro. Okay, that's the other one. So you can look at those as well. They all have very similar technical characteristics, nice runs at the beginning of the year, broken momentum after that, and just consolidation and sideways action. And we're getting pretty close to some of these consolidative ranges, seeing strong moves out of them. Okay, so when we think about building out our watch list in solar, there's 3 buckets that I think of. All right, you've got the old school stocks, so those names that have been around since forever, and forever means 2006. You have the new school stocks, which are fairly new for me. I'm actually going to add one more just because it's off the top of my head. And then you have some of these, what I would call higher volatility, higher risk kinds of names. But if they get going, they have seen massive moves in the past, and on a percentage basis, these have very nice possibilities for upside movement, and the options are actually getting cheap enough where you can get some very nice risk reward profiles on them. So let's start with the old school stocks. Big Papa First Solar FSLR. Obviously, this one has already seen a move. You've got sellers coming in right around 108. All right, so what you would want to see is some kind of a push into this resistance, and then you get a pullback, and then you get a breakout. So First Solar actually manages to break out and hold that breakout. A lot more eyeballs are going to end up in the solar space. So that's when, if everyone else starts paying attention, my goal for you is to make sure that you have that before everyone else does, so you can anticipate those moves before they happen. So that's First Solar. I think it's extended. It's still a very good trading vehicle. It's just not a good buy opportunity right here, I don't think. Okay, it could just be straight up momentum and we run to $150 a share. We're just not seeing that in the market right now. Okay. You also have Canadian Solar CSIQ. This one obviously has not run. It's just gone sideways for a while. We've had, we could make the case for a failed breakdown right here where you had this really nasty sell-off and there was no follow through to the downside. So you want to keep that anchored around, keep $33 a share anchored in your mind. And if it comes into it, that could be a decent low risk buying opportunity for you. At least you know where your stops are going to be into that. This probably just needs more of a consolidative range, and we'll just go from there. Then you've got SunPower SPWR. This one went parabolic, and it ran to 50, and it's completely broken. This is almost in the broken momentum space. I just include SunPower because, the last time we had, I'm not going to make the call straight up for an inflationary cycle, okay? But there's hints of it. We're starting to see commodity prices run. We're starting to see what I would consider late stage monetary policy and things like that, where if they start to raise rates because inflation's running too hot, that's good for commodity stocks. So the last time we had, back in 2006, 2007, Katrina hit. They were buying more oil to put in the strategic petroleum reserve, and we saw crude oil go up to $150 a share. We saw, gas prices go up, coal prices go up, and everything else. And then look at SunPower on a monthly chart. It IPO'd at $17 a share. It ran all the way to $100. That was back in 2007. So now we're seeing something very similar, I think, where if it continues to base out right here, especially if it continues to hold 20, maybe you get a failed breakdown into that. If it knifes under 20 and then pops right back up into that, then you've got a really nice low risk buying opportunity there. So some new school stocks to focus on as well. Jinko JKS. You can see my notes here from the last time I played it back in December into that failed breakdown where it traded from 55 all the way to 82. This is a very volatile stock. This is a very strong momentum name, and when it gets going, it can really get going. All right. Since then, it's just been trading in a range. It's been kind of trashy. You just want to have it on a watch list somewhere just to keep an eye on it in case we start to see some real nice consolidation and some good low risk opportunities there as well. The stock, let's see, for the past 2 months, it's been in a range between $40 and $60. That's a 20-point range on about a $50 stock. That's massive intraday volatility. So if you are a day trader, this one definitely should be on your list as well, both to the short and long side. You've also got Enphase, ENPH. This one I'm really interested right now to see how it acts into this previous support level right here. And it had a little bit of buying pressure on Monday and it kind of reversed. So if this bottoming process holds, this will most likely be an attractive candidate for a push to at least $180 a share. Okay. And then we'll see from there. You've also got SEDG, which is also new, Solar Edge. Not to be confused with Schrodinger, which is SDGR. Yeah. Okay. SEDG. Solar Edge, another one, just it's continued to make higher lows. It has a very clear line in the sand at $300 a share. That's where sellers have continued to come in. And if it can clear above that, that's a good longer term breakout. Okay. Right now, a lot of these stocks kind of look like trash. Okay. They're not clean trenders. They're just going sideways. They're really choppy. That's why I'm bringing them to your attention right now so you can be prepared if they start to move. So the broken momentum names, and this is where you can really get some upside juice. All right. I think these, I don't want to say trashy on a fundamental basis. It's just that, they're cheaper stocks. And it's very similar to, like Express and BlackBerry and Nokia, all of those kinds of meme stocks. This has a very similar characteristic. So this is ReneSola, this is SOL, and this doesn't look like anything that we've talked about a second ago other than maybe Canadian Solar, where we have, let's just put an anchored VWAP against this level right here. We have a lot of stuck longs. And so you want to view this as a trading instrument, right? You want to say, okay, I'm going to buy this, but into any strong parabolic moves, you need to be selling some, reducing your risk, converting to spreads and things like that. But when these get going, they really start to get going. I would look to use an alert above $8.70. That is going to align with this volume shelf right here. So if you get above that, then you've got the potential for some strong momentum. I would use an anchored VWAP against that swing high all the way back at $34 a share as the initial target. So that's 13, right? Odds are, if you go out to December OPEX and you look at the 15 calls, they're going to be at a reasonable value where if this sucker gets going, you can look to earn 100, 200, 300% on your capital on those calls. You've also got SunRun. Very similar kind of thing. It's not too, it hasn't sold off too hard relative to its highs compared to something like ReneSola, but it's still what I would consider a momentum name, right? So what do we want to see here? Either we see a push sub 40 and a failed breakdown. So we want to see an auction that fails to the downside due to initiative buyers. And then you can have a very fast move back up to $60 a share. Okay. And I have a feeling those $60 calls are going to be very cheap. You don't necessarily have to play the trend. You can play the range. And if the range fails to the downside, then you can see a quick move back to the other end of the range. If you wanted as well, you could look at, some kind of just basic technical pattern right here with a little downtrend channel. But if you give it enough time, if these things stop trading like garbage, they're going to start to move. Okay. And then you can also look at Beam. This is a combination of solar plus EV. So they make electric vehicle charging stations with a solar twist to it. So that's one of the reasons that it held up so well through February before it really broke down, because it was part of that electric vehicle run as well. Again, whole thing looks like trash, right? Really choppy, not a whole lot of price movement. But I'm not telling you this 2 months ago and it's still trading like trash. I'm telling you right now that a lot of these names, they're probably going to start seeing some momentum. We're starting to see signs. First Solar, FSLR, was the one that started it off. We're seeing moves in natural gas and coal stocks. Okay, so solar, in my opinion, has a tendency to trade alongside those, and that can give you some really good opportunities. If you want my buy list and how I'm trading these and the option picks as well, watch the webinar training that we've done. There should be a button below this video for you to watch it so you can see my exact approach, how I use my roadmap to get the best risk reward available in the market. Thank you all so much for watching this Watchlist Wednesday. I'll see you next week. Make sure to watch that special presentation, that webinar. Click the button below this video to get started. Have a great day.